This is unbelievable. It's one thing to lose the game. It's an entirely different thing to be completely petty afterwards. But that's exactly what Julius Randle did. After the Knicks demolished the Timberwolves, Jalen Brunson was looking for Julius Randle after the game. But unfortunately for him, he couldn't find him because once the game ended, Julius Randle bolted off the floor and he left the arena without speaking to the media. And recently, an NBA insider with The Athletic revealed why the Knicks actually traded Julius Randle. We're going to break down all of these latest reports today. But before we get started, guys, about 55% of you watching this video right now are not subscribed to the channel. We are on a mission to try to reach 25,000 subscribers, and we could really use your support. If you enjoy daily Knicks content like this, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button because it could really support all the great content that we're creating for you. And now, let's get started. Extremely petty. Randle snubs Jalen Brunson. I thought it was another game. I thought the game didn't matter. That's at least what Julius Randle would have you believe if you were listening to him before the game actually started. But if you were watching the Timberwolves versus Knicks game, that first quarter, you saw Julius Randle try to take over the game. Even though it was Karl-Anthony Towns' return game to Minnesota, he wanted to make a statement against his former team. And in that first quarter, he definitely tried to. But as the game settled in, you saw who the better team was. Not only on offense, but each and every game, our defense gets better as well, too. And after the game, once the Knicks were finished destroying the Timberwolves, Jalen Brunson started looking for Julius Randle, but he was nowhere to be found because once the game ended, without even thinking about anything, without giving one handshake to any of his former teammates, he bolted off of the floor and he was not seen again for the rest of the night. Let's break down these latest reports about Randle and what he did after the game. Shout out to Knicks Muse on the app X for giving us the following information. According to them, Julius Randle went straight to the locker room and didn't speak with any of his old teammates after the game against the Timberwolves. This is coming from Kristen Winfield of the New York Daily News. And according to the New York Daily Post, they gave us some more information about this Randle situation. A day prior, Randle was playfully stonewalling questions about facing his former team, an interview that demonstrated, if nothing else, his desire to disconnect from the Knicks despite 5 seasons with the franchise. And as I mentioned a few minutes ago, when he was facing off against the Timberwolves in that first quarter, he started with powerful moves and with one angry shout at the Knicks bench after he hit a three. He was grooving, in motion, and was ready to make a statement. The unfortunate part was the Knicks were ready to make a statement as well, too. They locked down Julius Randle by switching OG Anunoby on him, and Karl-Anthony Towns went off, giving you 32 points, 20 rebounds, and 6 assists. He took over that game, returned home with a vengeance, and got the Knicks that W as well, too. Now, the reason I said that Julius Randle snubbed Jalen Brunson is because of the following clip that's circulating around the internet showing that Jalen Brunson is asking somebody, apparently from the Knicks staff, about Julius Randle and where he is. And he's basically told he left. And you can see him mouthing the words, he left. Let's see that clip real quick. So as you can see here, Jalen Brunson's looking around the arena, looking for Julius Randle, can't find him. Talks to this young lady who I believe works for the Knicks, and she basically tells him Randle left. And then you can see Jalen clearly mouthing the words, he left. He's looking around the arena still, looks back again, can't find Julius Randle, and then eventually leaves. You got to feel for Jalen Brunson. Clearly, he understands who Julius Randle is. He understands that attitude. And after a loss like that, when Julius Randle was supposed to play well, and for the most part for that game, he did pretty well, but he couldn't close out the game for the Timberwolves. The Knicks, Karl-Anthony Towns, Mikal Bridges, we were able to do that. At the very least, what Julius Randle could have done was meet up with Jalen Brunson, met up with a couple of these other former Knick players that he played with last season, and just dapped it up, said what's up to them, even though they lost the game, and just make sure they're doing okay, and make sure there's no hard feelings, everything's still good, and they're moving forward the right way. But Randle, he didn't do that. He chose to be petty. He chose to leave. And not only did he not speak to any of his former teammates, he didn't even speak to the media. He left. He left without talking to the media at all, not taking one question. But before the game, you could ask him 10 million questions. And even though he wouldn't give you a straight answer, he'd still give you an answer. This time around, nowhere to be found. But more than that, you had the star player of the team question the identity of the franchise after they lost to the Knicks and Anthony Edwards. This is what Edwards had to say. Anthony Edwards on what the team's offensive identity is after they lost against the Knicks. We don't have no identity. We know I'm going to shoot a bunch of shots. We know Ju going to shoot a bunch of shots. That's all we know. We don't really know anything else. It's not on the coaches at all. It's on us. When your best player questions your identity and says you basically don't have one, it's just about him putting up shots and Randle putting up shots, that's not great to hear. What's worse is when the fan base starts to turn on you. And that's exactly what's happening with the Minnesota Timberwolves fans right now with Julius Randle. Take a look at this quote right here. Shout out to Timberwolves Talk on the app X for giving us the following. This is what they said. Maybe it's absolutely nothing, but Julius Randle's body language doesn't scream, I want to be here. I have always been a big fan of his, but I just don't understand the lack of effort on so many things. Starting to think more and more about moving him out of the organization. You lose to the Knicks. You bolt out of the arena. You don't talk to anybody. The leader of your team, and Ant Edwards, calls the team's identity into question. And then you have fans turning on you. It could not get worse for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But honestly, Julius Randle, all of those problems, they're yours now. Those headaches, they're yours now. Avoiding the media, that's for you to talk about now. Julius Randle is not our problem anymore. He's the Minnesota Timberwolves problem. And that looming contract extension is also the Wolves' problem as well, too. The Knicks don't have to worry about that or think about that at all. And recently, an NBA insider with The Athletic, the great Fred Katz, actually revealed that the main reason the Knicks traded Julius Randle is because they could not come to an agreement on his contract extension. They were headed for divorce. So Leon Rose making this move and flipping him for Karl Anthony Towns, in hindsight, looks like even more of a steal. They fleeced the Minnesota Timberwolves. And after understanding this piece of information, it makes that point even more clear. Shout out to Fred Katz for giving us the following information. Julius Randle was entering the final season of his contract. And though he was eligible for a new one, he and the front office were so far apart in extension talks that divorce was on the brink. It was going to happen. So the best thing the Knicks could do in this situation is to flip him for Karl Anthony Towns. Now, he didn't know it at the time, but doing this move, making this trade was the best thing to happen to the Knicks in so many years. We got off of Julius Randle. We got off of that contract. And now we have a legitimate superstar, MVP caliber player right next to Jalen Brunson and Karl Anthony Towns. And Jalen Brunson, he's a superstar in his own right. We also have Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Wing stop, defending like crazy, scoring when they need to, and making sure they're making the team better by making the right reads, making the right plays. Both of those guys, wing stop, they are very good at playmaking as well, too. They're not going to get enough credit for that because a lot of people like to talk about their defense and all of the other things that they can do on the floor. But the playmaking aspect that those two have added to their game, it is just phenomenal with this Knicks team. Because not only does Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson find them, they also find Karl Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson. We fleeced the Minnesota Timberwolves, and now we never have to deal with Randle, that attitude, or any of those emotions again. The Knicks were riding a new wave, a new high, and this high is called championship contender. And we only know one direction at this point, all the way up. And all it takes is a win after another win after another win. Keep adding W's to the win column, and we'll get to the final destination. And the final destination is NBA Finals. And if we get there with the roster we have, playing the way we have been, We are going to go all the way, bring a championship back to New York, break the drought, and celebrate just like we can, just like we should. We are almost there. New York is back. We are getting back to being that team that everybody's going to fear, and we are a legitimate contender in the NBA, and nobody can tell me anything different. Not only did we win this trade, we won it by a mile, and it's not even close. But what about you guys? What do you think about the following reports indicating that Julius Randle snubbed his former teammates by being petty, by going straight to the locker room and not speaking to the media or any of his former teammates after the Knicks destroyed the Minnesota Timberwolves? Let me know how you feel about that in the comment section below, guys, because honestly, I would love to hear from you. But that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, go ahead and smash that like button, leave a comment below. And of course, guys, please subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Knick fans, take care of yourself, your families, and each other. Peace and love.